Righty, welcome everyone to this edition of the ngrok Developer Roundtable. If you have joined us in the last minute or so, a tradition we have here on the Roundtable is to let us know where you're from. We've already had folks chime in from all areas of the world, from California to India to Argentina to Michigan, Canada, Spain, Switzerland, Mexico. Thank you all for joining us. I am your host, Scott McAllister. I'm a developer advocate here at ngrok, and I'm joined today by Warren Nelson. Warren, you want to introduce yourself? Let us know where you're from.
Hi, all. I'm Warren. I'm a developer. I'm currently based in New York, and I've been working at ngrok for a little over a year and a half now, working on the identity and observability team here.
We're excited to have Warren here. He's going to talk about the traffic inspector here on the Developer Roundtable. But before we get into our program, we should cover a few things that we like to get out of the way, or at least cover at the beginning of our Developer Roundtable meetings here. So first is to level set what ngrok is. ngrok is an ingress platform that allows you to connect to something, whether it's a service or a device or other networks. And it began as an ngrok agent that allowed you to provide access to a service running on your local machine. So if you're running ngrok locally, you would run ngrok, you'd say HTTP as your protocol, you'd give it a port, and then it would route that traffic to that port, and based on the domain that you gave. And that traffic passes through the ngrok platform and allows you to do various things to that traffic as it comes in. So as you're having traffic get to your services, you can also implement some various modules inside of ngrok, such as authentication, load balancing, IP restrictions, or even observability. And observability is kind of one of the things we'll be talking about today. So we'll dig into that in a little more detail here in a few minutes. But we're a full-on platform that allows you not only to provide access to your local development box, but also to production and be a gateway to your production APIs and applications. So that's where ngrok lives in the world today. Some of the announcements that we have is that most recently we have released a feature where we have the bot user API. We've had the features of having bot users for a while, which essentially allows you to have a user that is not tied to a specific person. So it's not going to leave, right? I'm not going to put my credentials in and then someday I am going to leave the company, right? So if you have ngrok and you want it to be running a process that you don't want tied to a specific person, you would create a bot user or a service user. Well, now you have a bot user API, so you can set up those bot users automatically, programmatically, so you can have those users for your services essentially automatically and programmatically as you're building those into your processes. So pretty rad feature going in there. We're pretty excited about that one. And if you don't want to wait for the next Developer Roundtable to see or read about our various features that are coming out, then head over to the ngrok blog at ngrok.com/blog. There we list all of our different features that are coming out. We talk about various tutorials, various features that are exciting or interesting, maybe dig into some use cases that are novel or that we find fascinating, or that our customers have done some cool things with ngrok. So you can find it over there at ngrok.com/blog. But today what we have is we are excited to be joined by Warren Nelson. He, as he mentioned, he's a developer on our engineering team that has been working on the feature for Traffic Inspector. So Warren, tell us about what Traffic Inspector is and kind of what the role it's going to play for developers going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing to kind of highlight about observability at ngrok is we've always given developers, at least for the last few years, opportunities to access information about what happens on their account with respect to either how your configuration is changing or the requests or connections that we're processing on behalf of you. This has primarily been serviced through something called event destinations. This requires you, the customer, to configure a destination with which we will send those events to. This is really effective if you're able to set up that infrastructure and you can work with that to then analyze what has happened on the account, but it's a barrier to entry. You obviously need to configure that. It doesn't come with you out the gate when you open your account here. So we've had this missing piece of our portfolio to essentially dig into how is the ngrok product being used by our customers. How do they understand that without having to do a large overhead of configuration to get that information out of the product? So thus, Traffic Inspector was born. You might be aware that the debugging solution has been available inside of the agent for some time, colloquially known as Port 4040. If you start an agent, you have access to, on your local machine where the agent is running, a service on localhost 4040, which allows you to see traffic that has been processed through that specific agent. However, this is limited for a few reasons. One, you can only review data for that specific agent. So if you have a number of agents running, you need to go to each individual agent and interact with that specific one to get that traffic. You obviously can use the destinations, but you need to configure that. Additionally, we've been releasing a bunch of new functionality built on our platform that don't use the agents. We're talking about our SDKs as well as our Kubernetes ingress controller. Neither of these solutions have that 4040 type interface available for you. So the reality is, if you want to be debugging or interacting with traffic that's going through your system, you either need to do destinations, which again, that overhead, or we need to make something else to make this available. Thus, Traffic Inspector. What Traffic Inspector does is for every request that we process through our platform, we capture a minimal amount of metadata by default for those requests and make it available for you in a UI. And I'll actually go ahead and start sharing my screen so you can see what I'm talking about.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm a visual learner, so I'd like to see what's going on.
Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so right here is the Traffic Inspector. You can see right now for the past 15 minutes, I haven't had anything go through my account, but I do have a tunnel running at foobar123.ngrok.io. Feel free to go to this URL as well. But I'm going to go ahead and click that, do a few refreshes, and get some traffic going through. We'll refresh that, and we see a bunch of new requests that have been processed through the platform. It is that quick. The propagation is within seconds, even less. And right now I have it on live. So as people connect into it, we can see additional requests coming in. We can then, on these requests, see a bunch of data about the requests and the response. So we can see we have IDs, timestamps, methods, stuff about the headers, and stuff about the response bodies and the request bodies. The big key highlight I want to say about this is, by default, the values of the headers, the contents of the bodies, that is not turned on by default. You need to opt into that amount of data to be processed by our platform. We only capture just very small amounts of data, like the request type, the method, the path, the status, by default. If you want to opt in, you can then go ahead to the account settings, and in the account settings, you go to observability, and you can see there is a observability full capture setting. By default, it's disabled. You click enabled, and within 5 minutes, we will start capturing your bodies and headers for you, such that you can interact with that inside the Traffic Inspector. So going back to Traffic Inspector, we see we have all these different things that are coming in. I have a bunch of requests from earlier today, and then also right now. We can filter these requests as well. So let's say I only want to look at 404s, add that filter, and we see only 404s. If I want to clear the filters and then I want to only look at posts, I can see posts. We have the ability to really dig into, especially, and this becomes really useful when you're like looking at not just one agent, but 10 agents or 100 agents supporting a bunch of different applications. You can really dig into exactly what sort of stuff you want to look at here. Additionally, 4040 has the ability to do replay, so we've re-implemented that functionality here. So in order for you to be able to do replay, you do need to have full capture enabled. But if full capture is enabled, you can go to any request, say replay original. It goes through the system again, refresh, and we see it's there. And now we see we have this replayed request that was sent to us originally, and we can see if I ran it again. Maybe I changed something on my server. Did it do any? Did I do what it? Did it do what I expected it to do? Additionally, you might want to change some aspects of this. Maybe you want to change the user agent, see if a different user agent causes something different, or to change other aspects of this request. Really, what you can do is limitless with respect to putting in traffic to test with your application.
Yeah, I've as a user of the ngrok agent locally, I've been super dependent on 4040. So it's nice to have this. It's almost like this is 4040, but times infinite, right? Like it's just as big as you want it to be.
Yeah, we see this as the natural evolution of 4040, especially with respect to as we expand the product, make it so that you're able to use it in more places with more things. We see this as being the default way to interact with requests and connections in the near future.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, just want to remind the audience, if you have any questions, comments, please let us know in the chat so we can address those here. We have Warren here as our great expert. So please let us know in the chat what you want to see. If there's a particular features you want to see with the traffic inspector, but also if you have any questions about it. So Warren, you were saying that they need to manually go into their account settings to turn it on, or is it already turned on? They just need to go in to turn on the full capture.
Traffic inspector is on by default. We will
Okay.
always capture some small amount of your metadata, but if you want to actually be able to interact with your bodies and headers and see those in the dash, you need to opt into that. That is because you could potentially be capturing sensitive data on behalf of your users, and we want you to understand that risk and to opt into that if that is something that you would like to be able to use.
Got it. Got it. And the maximum length of time that we hold on to those events it looked like it
So
was 30 days?
it is 3 days. For me, it's 30 days because I have updated my
Okay.
retention limit.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
is actually a new feature we are releasing. Actually, we've already released in terms of the production plan, though it's still in developer beta. So your data might not be safe if you buy that retention increase. But we have a retention add-on plan. So if you're on our ngrok for production plans, there's an add-on that gives you 90 days of traffic inspector retention. That's $100 a month. I think it's a month. And that gives you 90 days of retention on any endpoints you run on ngrok. But by default, and for 99.9% of our customers right now, it is 3 days. That is all we hold this data for, and then it is gone.
Right, right. Well, and I was talking to one of our customers actually and introduced the concept that we had this traffic inspector, and he got his eyes lit up. He said, "Oh, that's something I actually need right now." And he dug into it. He said, "Yeah, this is exactly what I need because we need it to be able to debug." They see that they're kind of this middle system between another system and their customers, and they need to make sure, like when a customer's having an issue, it's like, is that traffic is the issue on our end, or is the issue on this other third-party service? And so they can see that traffic passing through the inspector and say, okay, I see that their requests are coming through. Now I can see, okay, this is what's happening, and we can replay it and see if we can debug it quicker rather than just letting it, okay, now we'll asking the customer, will you hit the API again so that it can, show us what's happening. So it's actually addressing needs straight out of the gate. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, we think this is going to have a number of different use cases, but we think like debugging is primarily the biggest benefit that this provides, especially for allowing customers to identify problems on their own without either our intervention or just being unable to figure it out. Like we want to make it so that you are able to understand exactly what is going on with your data.
Yeah. And that's I mean, it's table stakes these days, right? You need to know what's going on with all of your traffic. And so as a when you provide a service to anyone, that's what people want to know is like, okay, what's happening here, and can you tell me exactly what's happening to each request that's coming in? So,
Exactly.
so tell me from an engineering perspective, what were the challenges with building this feature, or was it basically like kind of building off of 4040, but just kind of putting it into the dashboard?
So I would take a look at 4040 as like kind of the guiding perspective of like what we should be trying to build. But generally speaking, it's a completely different functionality than 4040. 4040 is just next to your application, is essentially seeing the same thing that your application is working with. Whereas when we're building a software as a service solution for this, where we're doing this on behalf of all tunnels, not just a single tunnel at a given time, you need to really take scale into consideration, as well as how do you make sure that this functionality and feature doesn't impact the performance that you've come to expect on ngrok. So um, a lot of this is identifying where we can grab that data, identifying how we pipe that data through securely, and then identifying how we store that and make it performantly queryable. Some of these things we had answers to, some of these things we didn't have answers to, some of these things we had previous experience with, some of these things we're doing for the first time. But we've had a lot of really good luck with our persistence of choice, which was ClickHouse, which has really performantly provided the experience. You can see how seamless it is with insertions and querying and interaction with the data. In real time, we're able to filter through what is essentially millions and millions of rows, as if it is nothing. Um,
That's
so
cool.
that really has kind of enabled us to do a straightforward experience really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And so that kind of leads to my next question, which maybe you already answered, was like, what's your most proud piece of this feature? Like, yeah, that's pretty rad that we did that.
So I think it's really the platform with which we've built here to really increase the amount of information we can make available to our customers. I think right now, ngrok potentially can be a black box in some regards to like, how do I understand how this product is treating my data? How do I understand what is happening on my account? Like I might have like 10 people accessing my account. Like we want to, I would, as a like administrator or someone security, would want to know like, what are those people doing on my account?
Yeah,
How do I know that they're not exfiltrating my entire world or something scary? And the reality is we can build these observability tools to really give that paper trail and understanding, and then alerting in the future based on usage on our platform. And that starts with having the persistence to like save all those events and make them queryable and available to our customers. It also means adding functionality to our seams to make seams available to use this data. So there's a lot of like really like this in itself is good for our customers, but I think what we can use the same technologies we're doing to serve this, like requests and connections, we can do for API logging, access logging, audit logging. Like that's the sort of things that we really want to build in the medium future here, which is so you can better understand. Okay, I want to use ngrok for my entire platform. How do I have the peace of mind that ngrok is doing what I expect it to, and my users that I'm granting access to my account are doing what they should do and not doing what they shouldn't do?
so that's sort of the next steps. What you're
Yes.
saying is like in the future, this is sort of the evolution, as you were saying, of 4040, and then the evolution of this is going to be doing API logging and other types of
Yeah,
logging.
and I think that one thing is like there's going to be an evolution of the types of data that we are able to source. So like obviously we're requesting connections now, but audit logging is going to be the thing that people want to know. People want to know like agent health, agent connectivity, that like these sort of like disparate amounts of data they want to know. They want to be able to see inside of the platform. They don't have to connect up a destination to make it available. That's a big piece, but I think the second piece, which I didn't really touch on yet, which is once we have this raw values like requests and connections, we can generate valuable insights and information on behalf of our customers so that they can better understand their usage in aggregate. So like at the beginning levels, we're talking about like visualizations. Like, how do I understand like how many bytes am I running through my platform? Like, at when is like my usage peaking? When is it troughing? Like, what is where is my users? Where like who's interacting with it? Like these sort of things can be really well visualized when we capture the type of metadata we're capturing with this system, and we want to make that available to our customers in the medium to long term future. Additionally, if you have that data, you can then give like insights to our customers about like, hey, we see you're using this thing in this way. If you do this change, it might make it so that it is cheaper to do this thing, or it might make it so that this is more performant, or we see that you're not as secure as you potentially could be. Turn this on, and this would help you out. Like we can use the information about how our customers are using the product to inform customers how they can better use our product and better get value from the thing that they pay for.
That would be nice that seems to be the next step in general of all products. It's like we give you the information and then now it's like, well, now with all the information, we're going to make these suggestions on how you can better use this particular service.
Yeah.
So, um, uh, yeah. So a comment that we got online is so there's feature we kind of been talking about how this seems like an evolution of 4040, but what about the traffic inspector do they get out of the box that they never would have gotten with 4040? I mean, the fact that they can see all their endpoints all at once, right? Rather than just like a single instance of an agent.
So
Are there other
specifically,
types of features?
yeah, to specifically comment on the question by Nicole,
Oh,
I think that's moving to ngrok service also can also let us do things that 44 can never do, like comparing pre-transformed requests. We actually want to show how requests transform over the timeline. We don't support that right now, but that is something that we've actively been talking about, is like how do we represent diffs of
yeah.
request pre-pipeline and request post-pipeline, response pre-pipeline, response post-pipeline, and specifically where these things change. We're doing this, we have this traffic policy product that we're building at the same time, which is going to allow customers to programmatically decide how to manipulate their requests essentially as a middleware. You want to understand how that middleware is impacting your request over that timeline and for it to be clear. I've been working a lot with our PM who's leading up that effort, Nietzsche. And we want to like really make it so that as part of the observability data, it is a first class product inside of that to understand like how is the platform manipulating your traffic. So it is not a black box. It's not random. It's not like you're guessing at it. You can clearly see at which point this thing happened.
Very cool. Very cool. So with the traffic inspector, is there also the ability to take those same events and we could possibly pipe them into an observability tool? Like we could basically say, here's the traffic that's happening, but I'm already using something like Datadog or something, and I can pass it over to that.
Yeah,
Is that something that's an option?
like I said, we have destinations for that purpose. So
Okay.
that's actually a pre-existing function that's been available for a platform, even including the Datadog destination. We do need to improve the types of facilities we support with that. We support a very limited subset of destinations. Like a lot of people want to put it into their scene. That's not very straightforward unless the customer is willing to build their like Kinesis to Splunk pipeline. And that's not something that everyone's going to be able to invest in. So like the reality is we need to support first class a bunch of these different destinations. We don't have immediate plans to do any of this, but we want to. We see
Yeah.
this being something that's kind of a requirement. And I think the big thing is like traffic inspector should be like the 80% use case. Like this should be something that a lot of people want to use. It's not going to solve everything.
Sure.
The reality is there's going to be some amount of people who want to have their events and want to play with their events and want to view and visualize their events differently than we think you might want to do that. In that case, the destinations is the solution. And we can do a lot more to improve that system to make it so people will and want to use that.
I mean, it's what software is, right? We need to provide solutions to all the different use cases. So we got to have some functionality to the folks who are using those other tools, but also can provide that functionality, like you said, for the 80% that can be super useful for folks who are watching traffic and making sure that the traffic that they have routing through ngrok is doing what they want it to do and what they're expecting
Yeah.
it to do.
It's my hope that like Traffic Inspector can be the first step that
Mhm.
people go on their journey through using ngrok as a platform, where they can see, oh, actually there's this treasure trove of valuable information available for me that I can access, and I can see a lot of it here. This gives me a lot of information to make better decisions about my platform. And if it doesn't, then I can at least ask questions to improve it. So give us feedback and we can improve the platform. Or it is available, but it's not in the traffic inspectors and destinations. I can leverage that tool to get the rest of the information I'm looking for.
Very cool. So yeah, folks, let us know your questions there in the chat while we have Warren here. Warren, what is so if I wanted to get started with this today, it's already, like you said, it's already on for my accounts. And so that means if I go in and go straight to the dashboard and go straight into the traffic inspector, I'll see traffic that's already happening like retroactively, right? Like I don't need to, there wasn't anything I needed to turn on, right?
Correct. You're going to
Okay.
see by default the metadata for those requests. What you will see is there'll be a bunch of aspects of those requests if you haven't had full capture turned on.
Mhm.
There's going to be a bunch of stuff grayed out. That's because we don't have that information. We need you to say you want us to record that information for us to have that information. We strongly recommend if you find that information valuable, you should turn on that button. But it definitely is going to be a your mileage may vary situation where you need to decide if that's what you want to do. We still think that the without full capture, the product has a lot of value in terms of like giving observability and understanding of like how are people using my product. Like you'll still get the status codes, you'll still get the paths that people are trying to hit, you'll still get the basic metadata about responses, but like the question is like, is that enough for you, or do you want to get better debugging information available?
Yeah.
um
Looks like we have a question. Do you know if there's a reason why 4040 doesn't show requests that were 401'd?
if it was 401 by the uh, ngrok platform, but not the agent, it doesn't make it all the way to the agent.
Mm, the request never
So,
gets there.
yep,
Yep. Good question, Xavier. Yep, makes sense, huh? Cool.
we will have that information available in the traffic inspector, even if it doesn't make it to your agent. That's the cool part about the traffic inspector is we're recording from our edge. We're not recording from the agent.
So it's not, so the agent is layered inside of the ngrok platform while traffic inspector is grabbing everything, like you said, that's it's out on our borders.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, we only hit the agent if we get to the back end part of our request processing. So in our request processing, we receive your request, we do a bunch of processing on it based on what your configuration is with your edge or tunnel, and then we send it to the back end, get the response back, and then send it back. So the reality is, if it doesn't get to that second part, like let's say you're unauthorized, let's say that you are rate limited, say there's a number of reasons why you might not make it to the agent if you're a request, and for good reason. We don't want to DDoS you if we're trying to protect you from DDoSing.
Right.
That metadata about like those requests will never make it to the agent, but they're available on our platform, and we will have the events of that to describe what has happened.
Nice. Nice. So do we'll have traffic for things that hit our auth layer. Like, so if you have auth, like OAuth set up
Yes.
for your endpoint, then you will have all those requests that are hitting the auth. Okay,
As
cool.
long as it made it to HTTP. So we have firewalls on top of our platform, which protect us from DDoS as well. Those
Fair.
prevent connections from making to our HTTP reverse proxy. If the firewall kicks the request out, then they're not going to even get a page. It's just going to be like connection reset.
Yeah.
And we're not going to see that in our platform. So you might miss traffic that was destined for you potentially in this platform, but they didn't really interact with the HTTP platform at all.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. Um, Right on, Warren. Well, thanks for joining us. Is there any last things you want to tell us about Traffic Inspector? Or it kind of sounds like you already told us what's coming up next for Traffic Inspector.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
kind of
I don't
the
know quite the timeline on all those things. I
yeah.
think if any of those things sound interesting, please give us feedback. Tell us what you are missing from this platform. We have multiple ways to do that in our product. We have support times every day from I think it's 11 Pacific to 2 Pacific, where you can open up chats with our support representatives in the dashboard and relay feedback. You can do it by email. There's a number of different places you can interact with us. But please, if you like this platform, if you don't like this platform, but you could like this platform, please tell us what we can do to improve this platform to make it so that it works for your use case. What is preventing you from using this platform? What is making you want to use it, but you want it's something's missing. Like that is the type of information that's really useful for us, so that we can reprioritize and make this work better for you.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. That's the one thing when I go out and talk to people, it's like, okay, if you're not using us, why? Like, tell us why. Or if you're not using this particular feature, why? That way we can, yeah, like you said, make it better. Um, Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Warren. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If we have no more questions, I'm kind of eyeing the chat a little bit. I think we'll wrap. We are going to be back in June. We are working on a great show in June. We're working out a few of the details. We don't have quite the details on date and time just yet, but we will. And it should be a great show as well. Thanks again, Warren, for joining us. And thank you all. And have a wonderful day. And we'll see you all next time.
Thank you all.